It is lovely, and I had not considered flexible armor. Ordinarily, it is either strong cloth endowed with axiom or a large and hard piece of material to keep oneself safe. Mironoir notes as she holds up what so far is merely a sheet of tritite coins, roughly the size of Vernon's chest. It flowed and moved almost like a cloth, and fascinated her with how tightly it was bound together. Without axiom to help with the process, we had to get rather clever about forging our armor and weapons. In metal-poor countries, tightly bound bits of wood can make excellent armor as well. Really? How interesting. She notes, putting it down. How did your visit with your friends go? Very well. There's a few interesting bits of work to consider, and we gave the Admiral a bit of a scare due to a misunderstanding. What kind? She asks, and he shrugs. We've been looking into axiom totems, and I was considering the brands and tattoos. What I can do is useful, but if I want to be my best for the tournament, then I need a bit of an advantage. A brand? Oh, dear goodness. Why would you subject yourself to that kind of suffering? I've had worse, besides pain fades, gain stays. What? She asks, and he chuckles. Something workout enthusiasts say. He answers as he opens another tin that the Dauntless had sent him of little connectors for the many coins. You know, a bit of jewelry is allowed as well. She says, and he pauses. But a Kutha ring is a weapon, isn't it? Aren't physical totems effectively powerful and versatile weapons? Oh no, they're considered clothing by tournament rules, she says, and he pauses. Well, that's a loophole and a half, he remarks, and she titters. Oh no, we Apuk have axiom running through our blood. Wearing additional Kutha doesn't help or harm us. It's merely a metal to us, so it doesn't matter. She says, not mentioning her family shoes, and he nods. Okay, that makes sense. I'll be getting some Kutha coins to make some pendants and rings then, he remarks, and she scoffs lightly. It's harder than just bringing up a Kutha coin to make a totem. It takes a great deal of practice and ability, she says, and he smiles. I've had it explained to me, and I manipulate axiom in weird and wonderful ways for fun, my dear, he says, pulling a Kutha coin out of his pocket. He frowns at it, and the metal shifts as the air around him starts glowing with his focus. The coin unravels itself into a slightly stained, thin chain that he latches around his neck. There. Now I have a necklace totem. You could have used the ring, I would not have minded, Mironoir says, indicating his wedding band. No, I couldn't. This is more than metal, this is your gift to me, a symbol of your love. The thought of tarnishing it to use it as a tool is... I couldn't. It's too precious. He stammers, and a goofy smile spreads across her face. He leans over and kisses her on the nose before going back to making more of his disc armor. So, why didn't you have a totem before? She asks after a bit, and he glances up from his simple work. We're not sure of what the rules around the galaxy are. Humans as a whole just don't know where the lines are, meaning that totems could be harmless. Kutha jewelry appears to be, but a totem is something else entirely. Would it be offensive? Would it cause some kid of war? We're getting away, in our own heads at least, with carrying weapons around because everyone is an accredited soldier in good standing and the weapon is considered to be the least acceptable level of uniform in our own documentation. He explains, and she nods. Of course. Well, you should know that many races are like the Apuk. We're very powerful and very aware of it. There are many races like us, each an apex predator on their homeworld, despite the largest and grandest monsters they could produce. I doubt so many look as pretty, though, Vernon says, and she smiles a bit. He holds up the patch of tritite disc mail in his left hand and conjures an orb of energy in his right. He then slaps the mail with the orb, and it shatters against the bright blue metal discs. Perfect! It won't be much help against a thrown boulder or a solid punch. No, but I can accelerate myself enough to dodge. It's the odder axiom abilities that have me worried. You think you can move that quick? She asks, and there's a sense of deepening axiom. He's suddenly holding her bridal style after a blur of movement. Quick enough, I hope, he says, leaning in for a kiss. I can make that armor quick enough, he says, carrying her out of the room. It's been too long since we had a proper dance on the water. It's only been a few weeks. We've only done it once, let's fix that, he said, and she giggled. We've been a little busy with each other, she remarks as he lets her down to put her shoes on. Perhaps, but there's no reason we shouldn't. Is there a larger fountain than the one outside of our home? In front of the main Senate building. What are you thinking? She asks, and he smiles. Oh, no, no, no. That's far too public. Are you afraid? I'm not. He says teasingly. You're not being fair. Do you have any idea how many girls will be jealous and try to force their way in our marriage? A fair point. Do you have a suggestion? Something you'd like to do? He asks, and she thinks with a finger to her cheek. What about the Dauntless? So few non-humans have ever seen the inside of it, I'd like to understand the ship that brought you here to me. Sure, I can even introduce you to a few friends off the Nerd Squad. They've been busy, so there's not been much time to visit. He says, pulling his boots on and standing before offering his hand to help her up. Don't you need to do something first? She asks. It's better to beg forgiveness than permission. Besides, due to the hack, we've got little in the way of actual secrets left, and none that people are concerned in keeping from you. Not to mention, I think you'd like to meet Sir Philip personally. The old gentleman gave me more than a few pointers on how to properly show affection without stumbling over myself. Is he your father? She asks as they walk out the front door and lock it behind them. Oh, no, no, but he's taken a fatherly role to a great number, if not the whole of the Nerd Squad. His children are all back on Earth, as well as his grandchildren at that. He's a family man out for one last hurrah. Oh, so I have him to thank for your charm? Oh, no doubt. There were a great many things used to keep our glutted and overlarge crew busy during the long months in zero gravity. Sir Philip used a great deal of it to polish up on the social abilities of many crew members. This became a bit of a get-together as we learned that there were a fair number of more awkward men with more in common than most of the other soldiers, so we started to hang out, which became a large and loose group of friends, and the Nerd Squad was born. He explains as he casually helps her up onto the waters of the fountain, and arm in arm they skate across its rippling surface. It's the little touches that add ever so much, Sir Philip had told him. Little touches done casually and ignored by the doer, but observed and appreciated so very closely by everyone else. So, what kind of things would you like to see on the Dauntless? There are some parts of it being upgraded even now and then, back-built to be completely deactivated and purged of Axiom afterwards. The Dauntless does need to be able to return to cruel space. Will you go with it? She asks, and he comes up short, pausing. Luckily, they're no longer upon the fountain, and his mental processes slamming the brakes doesn't do anything but startle her. I don't know, he says, looking utterly lost. I was born there. It is my cradle world. No matter what kind of amazing place I find, it is not the place where my ancestors lie. It would be, I don't know, sacrilegious? Profane, maybe? It would be terrible at the least to never go back, he says before looking right at her. But there is so much here with you. There's you and He trails off, looking haunted. Her heart flutters as she realizes what's happening. He's weighing her against an entire world, against his home world and all the love and duty it implies, and he cannot decide which is more precious. Oh, Vernon, she gushes, hugging him close. His clear homesickness rubs off on her slightly, and she feels a pang for the mountains and plains of her own home. The ancient castles restored and preserved, the fields where great tournaments were held in days of old, the ancient forests that would retaliate to any fire brought within them, wherein dwelt the wisest and strongest of epoch sorcerers in days of old. Men that had fled there would be brides to seek self-mastery and power of flame and self before being conquered and tamed by a battle princess, as so many of the stories went, and how so many people could trace their ancestry to. It strikes her once more that she had seduced an alien sorcerer, a part of his own cabal of mages from beyond the dark place within the night sky. His strong arms around her make the moment wonderful. Oh, I want in on that so much. Some girl whispers from nearby, and she just ignores them. She's got the man, not them. Think she's willing to let us in? Another voice says, and she wants to glare at the bimbos staring up her Vernon, but doesn't want to break the hug. Look at how desperately she's clinging to him. She's a lesser wife. We don't need to ask her, but him instead. The first voice says, and that's enough. She turns around to glare. It's a pair of desert Nagasha with slight amounts of face paint. So those hussies think they're going to muscle in on this? Let's just go. No need for a pointless fight, Vernon whispers to her. She walks him away, and there's giggling from the two Nagasha. No point arguing with the foolish. They drag the debate down to their own level and then use experience to prevail. He says when they're out of earshot. Foolish? No, it wasn't foolish of them. Our situation is very odd. Ordinarily, I'd be looking for other wives to share you with. But I want you all to myself. I'm being selfish and stupid and petty and... She's cut off as he holds her close. You're none of those things. You're in love and so am I. You want to keep it with me and only me, and there's nothing wrong with that. Fidelity is a wonderful thing. It's not fidelity, it's greed. I want you all to myself. It's jealousy. I should not be hogging you. You're not hogging me, this is fine. On Earth where there's more men than stones, maybe, but not here. Not in this place. Not with these people or my people or any people. She nearly curses herself out. She's a princess. She has to set the example, not look to them. She has to be better. She has to, except for my people, he says, and her worries wash away for a time.